I'm going to ask you guys to use your imagination and imagine there was an ice sheet 1 to 2 miles thick covering upper North America. Okay, now as this ice sheet melts, it's going to create a lot of melt water that's going to run off of it. And this melt water is going to run down and it's going to collect into basins. And there's evidence of melt water in all of these basins. Now, supposedly there was an ice dam somewhere around here that held in these water levels. And once this ice dam burst open, it created these channeled scablands down here. Okay, so these channeled scablands are from the water that catastrophically came off, and each of these ruts shows the path of the water coming down. Now, that's completely incorrect, because if you study the way water moves, it moves in a lobe formation, and these were formed from the draining of the lobe formation, not the burst forward, okay? It's not from the beginning of the flood, but rather from the end of the flood, okay? As it drains and coalesces, that's when you're getting these ret patterns to form. So what this is telling us is whatever water came off of here was much more widespread than just these ruts, okay? This whole area is actually terraced, okay? It's incredibly flat. That's from water coming down and planing it flat. That's something water does, okay? Now, if we go into the Washington Basin, there's a feature here that has puzzled me for a long time. I don't know if you guys can see it yet, but it's these sediment lobes here, okay? So it's showing a current washing down. A water would push these sediment lobes forward, okay? And then it lines up with this canyon here. And the canyon has all sorts of scouring marks in it, okay? So the reason why this is so confusing is because it's showing a direction from the west, from the ocean, not up north from an ice sheet, okay? So what we're seeing is this type of direction, right? Water current came right through here. That's not what I'm saying. That's just what the erosion's saying. I mean, look at this direction. It's almost southward as well. So that's really, really something people aren't talking about. And it doesn't start in the river valley. It starts on this wide landscape. And there's a big elevation change right before it. So you would assume, based upon these lobes, that a water current washed over here, washed over this hill, and then came down and continued, and then went in to carve this canyon, and then kind of turned to the left and carved these ruts. Okay, that's what I think the erosion is saying. And then if you go over here, same thing. All these sediment lobes, I mean, this is a massive area. I got some drone shots in here, and it's so incredible because it's showing a current from the west. The current originated in the west. That's the dominant form of erosion on this landscape, or depositional erosion on the sediment. But right here, it's going this way. We have arrows pointing this way. But then we have our story of the Missoula flood coming down this way. So that's where it gets kind of confusing. And both of them are true. Water did come down this way, and water did wash across this way. But water also came down this way, okay? it came right down between the Cascade and Rockies, came right down here, and got spit out at this expansion bar that's got all sorts of erosional features. And it's got soap lakes. A soap lake, or a soda lake, or a salina lake. These are salt lakes, okay? You can find salt lakes all over, everywhere. It's a quite interesting fact about erosion is you've got a salt-filled erosion. Let me see if I can find another one here. Well, I'll just go to the big one here. Okay, all this is all salt, and it's in a big canyon. Okay, so that's an important detail. Let me just see if I can find, oh yeah, here we go. These are salt lakes here. Okay, and it's in the form of a scour right next to a massive canyon. So, hope you guys are starting to see the picture. Okay, now let's see if we can find more features that line up with this path that can either confirm or deny that. Let's just zoom in here randomly. Oh, look at that. Are these ripples 50 to 80 feet in wavelength? Covering the tops of these, you could call these mesas. Right, because it's a mesa because the top surface is plane flat, okay? That's from the planation. Michael Ord called that a planation surface, right? It's the same surface that's on a riverbank. And then we find mounds. And we find lines of dirt and soil, sediments, and mounds. Okay. So instead of the water level just being up, not going much higher than around here, we have evidence that the water was thousands of feet higher, all the way up here. And these ruts are filled in with trees, and you can see these are actually current ruts. They show the path of the current that wore it down into a rut shape. That's something a river makes in a water current. Now, let's go down, follow the Columbia River down this way. And let's think about how high this water could have gone. We know that it went all the way to these outer banks here, and it did cut through the Cascade Range, which is an incredible feat. But let's look this direction and see what we find as far as evidence of any water activity. This is a feature called mounds. Okay, all of these paths in between it are from water currents. Okay, this landscape is absolutely covered in this feature. Okay, this is all from water washing over this. And when water kind of washes around and sloshes around it, it makes the mounds. The mounds is the only stuff that's left, right? Everything is negative relief of where it was eroded, right? And the positive relief is the mounds. It's pretty similar to how a skier makes a mogul, because as the water or the skier kind of moves around, it moves around it and creates the mound by eroding what's around it. Okay. I really like this hill in particular because there's a ringed-like pattern. Okay, so the darker stuff has more of the soil eroded away. And because it's layered like this is exactly what would happen if, it's basically showing water lines, right? So something like in Glacial Lake Missoula, you might find something where there's layers of sediment. There's staircases. It's kind of like a river steps, okay, all around it, topographical. Okay, and just around this whole area, you can see all sorts of paths of water, where you can assume where they went and what was left and what was eroded away. And then you get to a spot like this, and here, these are terraced, right? So this is just like a river terrace, just like a river. You could think of each of these cliffs as riverbanks, right? And then the flat part being the terrace, which you could call that a river terrace. And so that's how these canyons were made here. And the topsoil was also washed off quite quickly as well. Now, let's see how far this goes. Right, so you can see just by looking at the planation surfaces, this whole area didn't just have water on it, but it had fast-moving water that created into a that turned into a planation surface, made it planed flat, made it a terrace, right? And it looks like if you follow that, it goes and it takes a little right turn, comes around here, and goes this way. And then here we see parallel canyons going this way, going more south, which means that the current completely flowed right over this. Okay, it didn't turn it into a complete planation surface, didn't have enough time and power, but it did flow right over to create, that's what these canyons are telling me, right? These canyons are massive, 7 miles wide, thousands of feet deep. Okay. These are the scablands. People say, oh, Oregon scabland, or Washington scablands, this, Washington. No, it's not even in close comparison. Okay, these scablands, I mean, just look at this, okay? Check this out. Here, we can see these 7 miles, or probably more like 10, 7, 7. All these canyons are really, really wide. Okay, let's look up here. Do we see that type of erosion? No, the channeled scablands are so much more shallow. Okay, it's not even close to the level of erosion as the Oregon scablands. It's not even close. And so we see a current, from these ruts here, we see a current direction. This is a later current direction because it's smaller ruts. Okay, so there was once a current that came like this, and then a smaller one that kind of swept around, as kind of came down here and swept out. Let me see if I can show it to you. So all along here, you also find that later current that was more westerly, more of a northwest current. And then there's the one that's went more south. Yeah, so that's the real scablands. Everybody's talking about Washington scablands. I don't think so. So this is the big feature. I went to this spot. This tiny little guy here. You go there, it looks massive. It's amazing. It's 2 miles wide. You got nice plunge pools here. You got ravines that run into it. These are sudden ravines, okay? And then you have cataracts. And then you got the plunge pools. Then you've got more sudden ravines.